Hi, I'm Art Bergeron, and welcome back to the fall edition of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. If you hadn't been following these shows, which were pretty regular during the pandemic, the point of this show, my name is Art Bergeron, and in my job is as an elder law attorney, my day job at Myrick O'Connell, but I do nothing but elder law there. The show is not about elder law, it's about my friends Frank and Mary. I always talk about Frank and Mary and their goal, which is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And the point of this show is to help you as a senior in Southborough know the people you need to know and the programs you need to know about if you want to do just that, if you want to just stay right here in Southborough. So many of you know Southborough resident, longtime resident, and the person, Doug Peck, my co-host, who I convinced to co-host this show because he knows that he does know all these people and the programs. His day job is working at a company called Seniors Helping Seniors, which we've talked about before. But his purpose today is to talk about, we got a couple of wonderful guests, Josh Obeiter, who has been on before, and Betsy Connolly, who is not. Doug's going to introduce them, and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff related to kind of where you all are now as we are, hopefully with kind of COVID-19 in the rearview mirror, but not quite, and kind of what's going on. So Doug, want to talk about our guests and talk about what we want to talk about?
Yes, thank you, Arthur. And nice to see you again after the summer too. What I thought about was COVID's still with us to some extent. Some people are still a little bit afraid of what to do and are trying to make some decisions going forward about care. And so I've invited two people that I think have, are respected in their own rights and have a little bit different perspective on things. One is Betsy Connolly, who's the executive director of New Horizons here in Marlborough. New Horizons is independent living, assisted living, as well as memory care. Josh is my boss. He's the owner and executive director of Seniors Helping Seniors of Greater Boston and Metrowest. And he's going to talk about the home care side, because what we all know and what this pandemic has showed us is that taking care of a senior is a complicated proposition. There's not, it's not black and white. There's not one, theme that fits all. So I thought we'd get these two folks together and see where we come out. So Betsy, let's start with you. How are things at New Horizons?
Things are great, Doug. Thank you for the introduction. We're doing very well at New Horizons. I wanted to just give a little background on me.
Okay.
I have my master's in gerontology, which is the studying of seniors. I'm the only person I know who's in my job as an executive director at an assisted living that has that degree. And actually, I think that's because many people come into this field thinking that they're going to be working in a skilled nursing kind of environment or an assisted living environment, and that they, need to help find people to move in. But I think what really is true about our business is that the goal really should be to help people find the right solutions for them. And that may be staying at home with care. It may be coming to a community with or without care. It may be different, unfortunately, for one or the other person in the couple. So we look at our field and we say we're people that provide ideas and potential solutions. We're not just here to sell a community.
And Josh, welcome again back to the show. I think that's an attitude that you share as well. Would you say so?
Absolutely, yes. So thanks for having me this morning. And as to kind of echo what Betsy said, is we're really here to work alongside the family and the care partner as they venture into the world of providing care to someone in need. And I think what we're trying to accomplish today through our conversation is to talk about the various different options that are appropriate for folks depending upon their particular situation, and that it really does take a collaborative, creative approach to provide the support to somebody that they need. Each person's situation is unique, and there's not a cookie cutter answer. And we work with families and other organizations to provide kind of as comprehensive care as we possibly can through a variety of different stakeholders. And as you know, caring for someone takes a village.
It does. It does. I just
And,
want
and
to.
if I could just add just one point, New Horizons has, for folks from around here are aware of it, but if you haven't been, you have to go. You have to go. I mean, it's this great organization. It was really at the forefront of, 20 years ago, of organizations that were really trying to pay attention to folks who have these whole variety of needs and trying to deal with that, all of them outside of a skilled nursing care setting. And I think they've done a great job with that. And I think, and the Seniors Helping Seniors is just unique in that you have a real focus on taking advantage of the population of us, the folks who are older, right? And who really kind of get it in terms of dealing with people who are experiencing experiences of people who are having these kinds of needs, right? But the only other observation I'd make is, if folks, as you're watching this, this is illustrative of this field. People do this because they really like it, right? So it isn't like a real, cutthroat, slick, So if you're talking to these folks, they're trying to help you figure out what's the right answer, whether it's them or somebody else, which is really important. Sorry, Doug. But I think
that's right. I think that's a good point. I think that definitely needs to be made. It's a very different type of business than you normally see in the corporate world.
Right.
And New Horizons is a nonprofit. It's been around now for a long time, and I think it's got an important contributions to make. So Betsy, let's just go back to you for a few minutes and talk about, tell us just very quickly, if you can, independent assisted and memory care. What does that mean?
Sure. So we have 400 residents. We have 35 in our memory care. We have, at the other end of the spectrum, 260 completely independent seniors who are, still cooking for themselves, and a good portion of them are still driving, but want some socialization to live in a community. And then the rest are people that are living in assisted living. And, in our assisted living building, where we have 165 units, at any point in time, we only have upwards of 80 people on care. So at least half or more of the people that live in the assisted living area aren't really getting any true assistance. And those are some of the cases that we would work with, someone like you guys, to provide sometimes some companion care. Maybe those people aren't driving anymore, but they want to go out and go shopping. They want to go to Starbucks. I know you, Doug, come over and take someone to Starbucks. They still can have a life. The whole point is to live at a place like New Horizons and maximize your life. Most people, even when they're 80, 90, still have years to go. And our goal is to help them find a way to enjoy those years as much as possible, being able to continue to do things that they may have loved to do in the past, but also learn things that maybe, and have a chance to try things that they maybe never did before. Like this year, we had a huge farm to table program going. And in one of the independent buildings, we had a group that named themselves the Green Thumbs. And they had about 30 15-gallon bags of tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers growing along the guardrail here. And our oldest participant was 97.
Wow.
She'd never had a garden before. She wanted to learn how to have a garden.
Yeah.
So, we're trying to, create an experience for people who want to have it, to be able to, keep doing things they love. Maybe it's in a little different way. At the Patriots game, we had a tailgating party on Sunday, and one of the guys said to me, I can't play football anymore, but I can still love it and I can still cheer it on. And wow, who would have expected I'd be going to a tailgating party with hot dogs and chili?
Yeah.
and beer.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
Josh, you don't work just at home, right? I mean, you work in some of these facilities. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about what you do in both places.
Yeah, so really our goal is to meet families where they're at in terms of their care needs. So
Mhm.
people come to us with a variety of different situations. Sometimes we're the first responders to providing help. As you know, many older adults are reluctant and resistant to getting support and assistance. They're fiercely independent, or they may have mild cognitive impairment, be in the early stages of dementia, and kind of have that lack of insight into their own needs. So we work with families in the beginning stages of a diagnosis to really creatively develop a care plan that the person receiving the care will be receptive to. And that takes a lot of tact, and it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of data collection. So that's kind of one end, is that we're there to support the person at home, and that person may be living with a family member, they may be living with a spouse, or they may be living on their own. And people are recognizing that their loved one really is struggling to be independent, and they need that
Mhm.
structure.
Mhm.
Um, and we kind of see people through all the way to community living, like at like a place like New Horizons, whether it be in an independent assisted living or in a memory care setting. And we help people in communities all the time because, as Bessie referenced, they may be in a community, they may be having their meals and care needs met, but they may need that additional stimulation, that structure. They may need someone to take them on outings, to medical appointments. So we kind of run the gamut in terms of how our care is delivered.
Mhm.
The common theme across it all is that we employ older adults exclusively, who are not traditional caregivers, which tend to allow our clients, our care recipients, to feel a little more comfortable with the person
Mhm.
that they're receiving help from. And that's kind of what we try and do, regardless of where the care is being delivered, is to make a good match and make it someone, make the relationship synergistic.
I
Mhm.
get, I just to throw in, I guess when Doug was explaining what he was doing with this show, I was like, well, that's interesting, but I wasn't kind of figuring out how it goes together. But it never occurred to me, Josh, that, as you and Betsy referred to, that you can be a really important resource for folks who are at home, but also for folks who are like at New Horizons. Because so it's all about this kind of, the standard Carney line, the continuum of care, because if I'm at New Horizons, I'm there for socialization, but I'm also there, at least for a lot of my clients, to be more safe. It's just safer. As I always tell my clients, it's great to be at home, but you're shoveling snow, there's stairs, there's all these issues, whereas New Horizons, you can be really safe. And New Horizons provides that kind of transportation for folks, except, it's a bus. And so it's more kind of like groups and kind of regular times. But you can really provide to folks, even like at New Horizons, this flexibility to be going to any number of places, kind of like any
Mhm.
time. So it's a really, I hadn't thought about that connection before.
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Many of our residents in the independent and the assisted building in particular need that kind of additional support. I mean, we take them on our van to appointments, but they have to go within a certain radius,
Right.
of space. Some of them have doctors that are further away that we wouldn't
Mhm.
typically travel to. I mean, with 400 people potentially able to access the van, we have to
Yeah.
be careful where we bring people. Our van seats 14 people. We're finally back up to letting, as many as we can get on the van after, coming through, with a very positive COVID experience. But, even so, we can only do so much for 400 people in transportation. But other
Mhm.
things too, I think it's really, lots of seniors either have families that live away. Many people
Mhm.
choose a community because they lived in that area and raised their family there, but their kids may not live there anymore. But they still want to be where they're familiar with the roads and, their doctors and, you know, their friends that maybe are still at home or went to a different community.
Mhm.
But then they don't have kids there to take them out to go shopping, to go to appointments, to go to the mall to get some new clothes. And so, you know, that would be something that would be, you know, important for a group, you know, like Doug and Josh's to come in and assist those folks. Seniors helping seniors, you know, is a great solution because they, you know, there's more of a peer opportunity there to be able to have more of a personal connection with a senior versus, you know, the typical private aid or personal care attendant that might work with us in our building. You know, it's a very different kind of person and a much more personal connection, I think, that gets developed.
Mhm. Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to add is, you know, for those that may be watching this, home care and assisted living are very different in terms of how the care is delivered. Yet they're kind of the core and common kind of overlap is that we're really here to provide support. It's just the way in which the care is delivered. One is in a community setting and one is in your home. And as Art mentioned in the beginning, everyone wants to, you know, remain in their home until the very end. They want to die in their home. A lot of, you know, 90% of the population. But when you really think about it from a pragmatic standpoint, and you think about it from a financial standpoint, and you think about it from a socialization standpoint, it's important to really think comprehensively. And both an assisted living and a home care agency can help you walk through some of the pros and cons of each setting. And oftentimes it's not a black or white answer. It's really it's very gray, and maybe it's a hybrid situation. It's a, you know, you're moving into an assisted living with outside help to provide that one-on-one component, or you may start at home and move to a facility down the road, or you may move into a facility temporarily for respite. So there's a lot of variations in terms of how care is delivered, but I know we work with communities all the time, and you know, growing old, if you're lucky, is complicated.
Yeah.
And it's and then with families being dispersed and not family members not being able to be as directly part of their loved one's life as they sometimes hope because of their own family and work obligations, you do need to rely on other people, and you need to make sure that whoever you're working with is giving you that sound, candid advice. And as Art mentioned also in the beginning, most of the people that work in this industry really genuinely care, and I think you'll find that. So when you know, your time comes to explore options, make sure you're having those honest and candid conversations, and best to always be thoughtful and planful in these conversations, so that you're not having these conversations when an emergency arises, because at that point in time, your thought process is going to be skewed, and you're not going to be able to make maybe necessarily the best long-term decision on your own behalf.
Right.
That's an excellent point, Josh, because I was just thinking about that. You know, a piece of being older for all of us is understanding that we you know, we're not in that great middle plateau, you know, where you're like out of school and you're in the middle and maybe you're raising kids and stuff, but like your health, unless, you know, there are exceptions and everybody grieves for those exceptions. There's an accident, there's cancer, right? But basically your health is kind of the same. But now you get to my age, you know, Josh, you're just a kid, Josh. You other people look so young, but you get to my age and you realize that there's a piece of your life which is going to end when you die. But during that time, there's going to be probably this change. And so understanding your options before that change happens is just really a good idea. You know, to have people like stop in to see Betsy and look at the place, you know, and just get a sense of it, because you know, whether it's you know, oh, I'll never have anybody come to my house, you know, or I'd never live in one of those big places. but it's based on these assumptions about what someone coming, who they're going to look like. You know, like you'd never expect a senior, you know, or it's based on some assumptions about what New Horizons about. Oh, you see it from the outside and it's really big and stuff. It's like, whoa, this would be scary. But you got to try, you got to see it, in order to appreciate it,
Mhm.
because your life may change. Your life is going to change,
Right.
right? Is going to change.
And that's what I find to be the characteristic of people who age successfully is they're resilient. That is, they know they're going to change, and they accept that that you can't change that. That's the one thing you can't change.
Right.
Is you just have to sort of, go with the flow, and things are going to change. The better you plan a little bit, or at least aware of what your options are, the better off the whole family is going to be, because it really involves the whole family. Right, Betsy? I mean, you have your father's living at New Horizons. Is that correct?
Come
Right,
on.
my dad
Yeah.
is 89, and he and my mom moved into independent living at New Horizons about 3 years ago. And she since has passed away, but he's doing great there. He's enjoying it. He's met a lot of new people. He brought a friend, somebody that he known for a long time, that he went to Tufts with, so that's been helpful.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, one thing to Arthur's point. We have some people who've lived at New Horizons for 20 years.
Wow.
On the other hand, we have a database that goes back to 2010 of prospects. And every month, we move in, 5 to 10 people every month typically. And as we're moving them in and going through our process, I'm constantly highlighting how long someone's been in our database. Last month, we moved somebody in who's been in the database since 2010 and probably has about 100 contact points in our record.
Wow.
So either they or their kids have been in, they've been to a marketing event, they've come to a lunch, they've gotten a Christmas card from us, everything that we've done with them over that time. And then eventually they got to the point where they're ready to come. They might be 95. On the other hand, the other one who's been here for 20 years came when they were 75 or 78.
Yeah.
And now they're 20 years later. Some of them
Wow.
are still living in independent living. We have a fellow who's 101 who's living in independent living, completely independent. He still drives, and he's a good driver.
And I bet you've got a lot of cases like that, Betsy, where life for the people who moved in actually ended up being not only more fulfilling, as you were suggesting, but just literally longer.
Yeah.
Because it's safer, because you're talking to people all the time,
Right. When I first came to New Horizons, I met a couple named the Keelers, and at an event where we had some prospects in. They'd been living here, I think, since 2014. So I said to them, "Well, tell me what about the beginning? Why'd you move in?" And Peg said, "Well, at the beginning, I didn't want to come. And I didn't want to come, and I didn't want to come." I said, "Well, why did you come?" She said, "Because he said we had to." That was her husband. And she said, "And I'm thankful that he did, because I feel like if we hadn't, we might not still be here today." So that ended up being their fear, which might be true, might not be true, but everybody has to go with their own instinct.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
And are you finding that the kind of the demand is now back up? I mean, I would assume that there were people who were nervous during that big isolation part of COVID,
Yes, not only were there people that were scared, but the state basically wouldn't let us tour people. I mean, there were 3 or 4 months where nobody could even come into the building, even if you were an adult child and your parent lived there,
Yeah.
let alone looking for a place to move for your family.
Right.
We were quite conservative at New Horizons, and even, even though we didn't say in our independent buildings, don't have anybody in, we just stressed the safety factor, and they self-police themselves to basically not let anybody in for a long time. So, we were not touring for at least probably almost 10 months. So we are seeing an increase in demand. we were 100% full with a waiting list at the end of 2019. So we were really lucky because, you know, everybody took a hit with occupancy because of COVID. But, you know, we were lucky because we were starting from the highest point really around. And now we're building our way back up, but we only have a couple of units open in the assisted building. We have a couple in one of our independent buildings. The others are all back to being full, and we have some in our memory care, which you may remember we just took over from Hearthstone just about a year ago. So we're still out in the marketplace making sure people know that we even have that. That's actually where the majority of our openings are. And just one last thing on that, if you don't mind. One of the unique things about New Horizons is that if you have a spouse with dementia and you're independent, if you move them into the memory care area, you can live in the independent building. And we have several that are doing that right now. And they can go in and see their spouse any day. In fact, we've recently, the last few months, started back to letting them come over, and if they wanted to have meals with their spouse, they can eat with them. So that's
a huge benefit.
Yeah, we're one of the only places around that actually has that ability.
And I just wanted to go to, I know that we're a little close on time, but I know that Josh, you and Doug had talked about during the pandemic how it was just hard to find seniors to go help seniors because they were nervous themselves about going in. Are you finding now that has kind of eased up and that you're able to find the folks that you want to find? Because I know you always tried to make this, among other things, an ad for people who are interested in this. I'm a big fan of seniors helping seniors in terms of getting people who are being willing to be your employees.
Yeah. So I think a couple things. One of the things that we try and emphasize is that the isolation that came out of COVID-19 was unhealthy for everybody. People cooped up, people in their own homes, was not good for anybody. And there's a lot of research that talks to being socially connected and how that's good for your own aging process. And we like to position that to people that work for us. A lot of people that we employ are retired, who have time on their hands. Maybe they're volunteering, caring for grandchildren, but they're finding their own networks are shrinking. That their colleagues that they used to interact with are no longer there. So Seniors Helping Seniors provides structure and stimulation, compensation in a way to really meaningfully give back and also make sure that you are socially engaged yourself. And we have seen several people come through our doors in the past couple of months now that hopefully the worst of COVID is behind us. And they're looking to meaningfully give back because they realized how disconnected they were from others. With that said, we are actively hiring right now new employees, and we'd love to speak with you. As you are probably experiencing, there's a shortage in pretty much any service industry position. So we'd love to chat with you and talk about a part-time job that makes sense. And one thing I just wanted to touch upon, and I think as Betsy was saying as well, her occupancy is almost back to where it was pre-pandemic. COVID-19 hit the senior care industry very hard in the beginning of March 2020, but I think the industry has learned quickly and made tremendous changes to prevent anything like that from ever happening again. And here at Seniors Helping Seniors, 100% of our staff are vaccinated, which we find to be incredibly important in order to protect those that we're providing care to. And 100% of our clients are as well. And that's something that we're proud of. But it's not just us, it's really the industry at large is making that a requirement. And Betsy, do you want to talk a little bit about your COVID changes that you've made to kind of ease any angst about moving into a community?
Sure. Similar to you, Josh, we are also, everybody's on a vaccination mandate. So all the employees are vaccinated. I think all but a couple of the residents are vaccinated, and those are people that have medical issues that precluded them from doing it. you know, we really focused from day one in the pandemic on, you know, on making sure that everybody that came into the building was aware that our number one goal was to keep COVID out. And that the only way we could do that was by working as a team. So whether you're the grandchild, the child, the care provider, an employee, you know, a visiting nurse, a physical therapist, everybody, I think, was in heightened awareness that our mission was to keep it out. No one wanted to be the one to bring it in. I can tell you that. Because if you brought,
And as a result, Betsy, you said something which was, I read earlier in the show, we had a positive COVID experience. Boy, now I haven't heard those words, positive, associated with COVID experience very much. Now, Doug, once again, my job is to be the timekeeper. We're out of time. This was wonderful. It was really wonderful. So thank you very much, Doug, for suggesting this. I think for both Josh and Betsy, this is a really worthwhile conversation. Folks, you got to look ahead and meet these people, whether you need them now or you need them later. This is just really, really, if you're Frank and Mary, they're going to help you live in your house or live it in a good place until you die. So Doug, thanks a million. Josh, thank you. And Besty, thank you.
Yep,
and
thanks
folks,
both of you.
And folks, we'll see you next month and the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. Thank you very much.
Bye.